Are you sick of having to go manually look at your inventory stock quantities and trying to run reports to figure out what you sold so that way you can accurately make your orders? Or trying to figure out what items you need to make return authorizations for by going and looking at some paper list? With CASA, the order generation features, you don't have to do any of that anymore. CASA makes it an absolute breeze to generate your purchase and return orders. Let's take a look at some of those features now. Okay, so all it takes to generate a purchase order in CASA is to go to the orders section, and you can do it two ways. You can either hit orders and kind of view, view the orders, and then you can hit create order up here. Or if you want to quickly get to it, you can just hit the arrow next to the orders button and click new purchase. So we'll just click new purchase. Now, let's say I'm making an order from Stinger Solutions. So we'll just put in Stinger Solutions here as the vendor, and then we'll hit this button right here, generate order. So you can still, just an FYI, you still can, of course, like add items to your orders manually. All you do here is you just search for the vendor model or model of what you're trying to order. So let's say I want to order some 4-gauge wire. So I'll just enter my store model number 4GW. And you'll see that when I do that, I actually get the two options of vendor models of 4GW, which I have already assigned to the 4GW model. So you see here that for Stinger, it's the SSVLP4R, which is the 100-foot red spool, which if I open it, you see here in the add purchase order line item experience, you get some background information on the item that was selected, such as the unit quantity, if it's standard or bulk, what's the master pack, what's the safety stock, and you get to see the current stock levels here as well on the right. And then let's say you want to even do some analysis on this particular singular item, you can go to analysis and look at the amount sold in a certain date range. So we can see here in the last 30 days that for 4-gauge wire, I've sold 16 feet of it. And that on average, it sits on the shelf for 70 days before it's sold. And then you can also see the alternative vendors down here as well. So I can see that there's one Metra vendor model that has a cost of $84.55, and that there's actually two Metra vendor models with $84.55, which we actually saw in the previous video. Now, also you can put the quantity of how much you're ordering. Now, it's important to note that for bulk items like this, the quantity is the quantity of the entire bulk item. So if I put one, it means I'm ordering one 100-foot spool. So it's going to add 100 feet of available quantity, but I'm only ordering one physical item. And this is, how it works for bulk items. And then you have the cost here, which comes from the specific vendor model cost that is on the inventory item. Let's say you knew that you were going to actually for this order pay a slightly different price. You can come here and you can update it. So let's say I knew I was going to pay 80. Then when I do 80, we can see that 80 divided by 100 means I'm paying 80 cents per foot. So it actually also shows you your cost per unit as well. Now, let's say this $80 actually is just the new cost. Like it's the new cost that, this particular vendor has switched to. Then instead of me having to go open my inventory item, and go to the vendors and update that cost, interrupting basically my whole flow of creating this purchase order, I can actually just hit this little save button right here, and it will save that cost value that I've put as the new permanent cost of this vendor model. So we actually add data management into the flow, the existing flow of you just making your purchase order. So that way you're not constantly going back and forth every time something changes. You can just make your order, update the cost, save that cost, and now it's updated your reference information for the future. So this is kind of how you would add something, like in the traditional method is you would just go here. I can also add a standard item. So I can come here, I can look up the Epic 750, for example, and I can see there's actually some highlighting going on in this case. So the safety stock of this item is 2, but the available quantity is 1. That's why it's highlighting the safety stock and the available quantity. It's trying to alert me to say, hey, you really should order some of this. Okay. And then, you can just go edit the quantity, hit enter, and you're done. So boom, you can see it's very fast, even with the manual one by one method. CASA makes it really easy and fast to just go boom, 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 adding items to the list. But let's take a look at the generate order feature, because that's what we're really here for. So it's gonna extend my session here. Okay, now if we generate this order, we see we get this pop-up window with our generated order. So you can see all of the items that have been sold since this date right here, December 6th. So this date, if you look at the how does this work section, it basically explains that the inventory reference date is simply the date that CASA is looking back at. Since that date, what sales have occurred, what, any stock change, anything where the stock has changed, whether it was due to sales or due to inventory adjustments, or something dropping below the safety stock value, whatever it may be, since this date, what has changed basically. And this date either can be input manually, or by default, it's set to the date of your last purchase order from this vendor. So my last order from Stinger Solutions was about a month ago, December 6th. So this is everything I need to order since all of the things that have been sold on December 6th. So you can see there's just a wealth of information here. I mean, there's the model, so the store model, the vendor model. There's the primary checkbox, which just shows you whether or not this particular vendor model is the primary vendor model of this item. So we can see there is some examples where like that kind of comes into play. Like here, we sell it as BAA4B in the store, and you can order it as BAA4B or as GM6, and we order it as GM6. That's the primary vendor model because it's a lower cost. So of course we're going to order the cheaper one. Now, also, you get the description of the item, the alternate vendors. So this is also really, really big feature, right? We talked about in the inventory demo, the ability to see your alternatives. So I can see here for some items like the TR1, I can see this TR1 that from Stinger Solutions, it's $7.21, but that from Metra, I can get it from Metra, but the cost is $8.57, which tells me, hey, okay, yeah, let me go ahead and order this from Stinger. It's a better price. But there might be cases where you're making the Metra order. Maybe you don't have enough stuff to get free freight from the Stinger order, for example, or they have maybe some minimum order value that you have to reach in order to place an order. So maybe you're able to make the Metra order more easily and you really need the item. So you actually you're willing to take that $1.30 difference because you're not going to be able to make a Stinger order for a while. But the cool part of it all is that we can see the alternatives. Here's another example. I can see a totally different vendor, the Wholesale House. They have 12 gauge speaker wire at a cost of $30 per spool because this is a bulk item here. Versus from Stinger, I'm paying $50 for the spool, right? So I can see like, oh wow, okay, there's a difference there. Anywho, to continue to look at this, you can of course customize the view. So there's a lot of data here. If you want to really simplify it, you can go to this plus sign in the top right corner and it's going to open the column selector menu. So you can show everything or hide everything or just uncheck and check the ones you kind of want to add in. So let's say I want to remove the alternate vendors. Maybe I want to remove the store model number. Maybe I'm not too worried about that. Maybe I also want to remove the, let's see, maybe I might want to remove the, there's the average lead time. So honestly, I kind of like it like this. So I would probably leave it like this. And I can see here there's some more data, right? There's the previously available quantity here, the currently available quantity here. There's the on order quantity. So I can see, hey, what do I already have on order? So for example, this particular harness here that comes in these two vendor models, I already have two of them on order. So they're already two of them on back order. So I probably don't need to order any more of this. Similarly, I have these Nissan harnesses here. I have 2 of them on order. I'm not going to order any more. I'm just going to wait for these ones to come in. And this on order quantity, as well as the delta, the change in the previous to the current available quantity, all of these metrics are taken into account when CASA gives you your recommended quantity. So here next to the order quantity, we have a recommendation column. This is telling us what CASA recommends we order. And then we also have the percent change quantity, which is showing us what is the percent delta from the previous to the currently available quantity. Then we also have here the average lead time. This shows us that historically from our previous orders, how many days does it take for us to get this item in from the day we order it? So for example, this item right here, the Epic 1500, takes on average 5 2/3 days. So you could say 6 days. It takes 6 days from the day I order this amplifier till the day I receive it. So these different metrics like the average lead time, the current available quantity, the previously available quantity on the inventory reference date, and also the safety stock, the master pack quantity, all of these things factor into you making your order. So the generated order really is just there to show you a recommendation, but then you can decide really what you want to order at the end of the day. So let's say I want to apply the recommended quantities to start. I can hit this button here in the top in the toolbar, and it will apply all of these recommendations into my order quantity. So I'll just hit apply recommendation. We can see that the recommendation has applied on all of the rows. Now, let's say I want to refine it a little bit. So let me sort it by like the percent change. So, okay, I can see I'm ordering one of these, all looks good. But maybe for me personally, I don't like to order anything that has a percent change less than 33%. I prefer to just wait on those items. So I'll scroll down to this section where it's below 33%. And I'll just, I'll probably zero these out. So I'll just hit 0 and then enter. So you can just type in the quantity and hit enter on your keyboard. So I'm just going to zero all of these out. Just like that. We'll just keep going. This is a pretty big order. So I'm showing kind of the extreme here because it's been over a month since we made an order. So there is quite a bit needed. But we see now I've cleared up all of the things that are at, a level of less than 33%. And I have all of my stuff for the really urgent changes, like the things that are 100% sold, 100% sold. These are all 50% sold. And then I'll just hit add to order. And boom, just like that, you see it added all the items to the order that we need, that were from our generated order. And it actually is showing us a confirmation message. It's asking us a question here. So it's saying one item, SPD 5210, has been superseded by another item. This is just a dummy example that I put together just for this demo. So it's saying it's superseded by the same item. Obviously, it's not really, it's the same item, so nothing has really changed here. But you can imagine if you did the superseding and you had the new model number, then what it is it's just asking you, hey, do you want to continue to order this item that is superseded? And superseded could mean, it's discontinued, or basically that you are wanting to block yourself. You want this reminder to show up so that way you order that newer model number. You don't want to order the older version of a model, for example. So basically that's it. So it's saying, do I want to continue? Maybe I'll say no. So in that case, when I say no, it's not going to add that particular item to the order. And then, yeah, that's it. That's our generated order, just like that. Everything, boom, all, and just how long have we been on this video? For about 10 minutes. I mean, in 10 minutes, we generated an entire order based on a month's worth of sales and inventory changes. You can imagine what a nightmare it would be to go look at the stock of every single item that's sold by Stinger Solutions and trying to figure out what you need. If I go to the inventory, I can even show you what that might look like. You can go to vendor, search all the items sold by Stinger Solutions, and you can see that it returned 594 rows, right? So, who's going to look at these 594 rows one at a time just to figure out what they need to order, That's what the generated purchase order feature is all about. Now, on the other hand, generating a return order, it's all about knowing what defective items you have. So we haven't gone over this yet, but in the inventory screen, when someone returns an item, it prompts you to say, hey, is this item that's being returned defective, or is it okay, like it's not defective. If an item gets returned as defective, those items automatically will show up on your return order. So if I go to orders and I make a new return, let's say I'm making a new return order to JBC Kenwood. So I select JBC Kenwood as the ship to vendor. And then we'll go here. You see here this, and then you can add some notes as well, just like you can on the purchase order. If you'd like to add some notes, you can add them. And then step 3 here is search and add items to the return. So as soon as I open this, you get to this experience right here where CASA is already showing us what items from JBC Kenwood USA, the vendor that we are doing the return order for, what items are defective. So all we have to do now to add these defective items to my return order is double click them. So I want to add this radio, and this pair of speakers. And just like that, down below, you can see you've created the return order. Now, all I have to do, if needed, if the return authorization requires like an explanation of what's defective about the item, I can go to this reason column, double click, and I can just say, hey, this radio has no RCA output. This radio maybe has a cracked screen. And then maybe this set of speakers has a broken tweeter, right? Something, whatever, whatever it may be, right? You just add in all that reasoning. Then what I can do is I can save this. And once I save it, I can actually go to actions here and I can hit print/email. And it generates a PDF return order. And I can, decide what columns I want to be visible. So in this case, I don't want my store model to be visible since the store model probably isn't relevant for this vendor. They probably just care about their model. So I'll just put the vendor model, I'll put the UPC, and then I might remove the serial number, and then I'll just leave the reason. So if we zoom in here on the preview, you can see it just, creating a nicely formatted document for us. And then I can print it onto a piece of paper if I want. If I want to maybe mail, I want to mail this particular sheet in the box with my return authorization and back to the vendor. Or if I want to maybe email this for approval first, I can hit email, and it's going to open the email window for us where we can basically add the email address that we're sending to, whatever it may be. Now, if I had an email already entered under the JVC Kenwood vendor, that email actually would automatically be populated. I just have not put an email yet for that particular example, so there's nothing. But if there was an email, it would automatically be there. But even if there's none, I can just, you can just add, whatever. You can actually even search. So, I mean, any existing emails will just show up in this sort of auto completion. So I could try to email it to cartoons, right, at suzy.microkc or whoever, and I can just add it in there. And if I just click send, of course, I can modify the text in the email text editor here, and you can bold, italic, underline, do headers. It's a full-on editor for the email. And then you just hit send, and it will send over that return authorization or that return order PDF straight to the person you've selected. So now we've seen, what it takes. Now we can even add some more things. So let's say maybe the item I want to return, there's an item that's not defective that I would like to return. I can actually come here to the current status filter, and I can add, maybe an on display item that I'm returning or an available item. So I can go available, and maybe I'm looking for a specific model. Like I know that there's a 57S, a radio ending in 57S that I have. Or maybe not, maybe it's 5707. Oh, there we go, yeah. So I have this DADX 5707S that's available, and maybe I want to return it to the vendor. Maybe it's just not selling and I'd rather return it for some partial credit. I can just, search it, add it in, and just like that, it's been added to the return as well. And then we can just save and call it a day. Okay, so this has been the CASA demo on purchase order and return order automatic generation. Hopefully you enjoyed that video. We really did quite an extreme case where We're ordering from one of the top parts manufacturers that we, as our store, we purchase from. And we haven't made an order in a month, which is really long. We usually do it every week. So you see just the sheer number of items we were able to go through and quickly add to our purchase order, just like that with the help of CASA. So I hope you guys enjoyed that, and we'll see you in the next one.